Here we are, my fellow viewers. We have come to the conclusion of what if DC sold the rights to their characters. But without wasting more time, let's begin, shall we? The first movie is The Flash Flashpoint. This film would act as like a more loose adaptation of the Flashpoint storyline. Apparently, this film would see the debut of Reverse Flash, who I could picture being played by either Michael Fassbender or even Anthony Starr. I could see either one of them. And apparently this happens after Barry and Wally face off someone like, I'd say, Pied Piper. And essentially when Flash is trying to stop the Reverse Flash, that screws the timeline up pretty badly, and it causes the timeline to be rewritten. Changes are, Hal is now a Yellow Lantern and has killed Sinestro and took the Yellow Rain and became the Yellow Lantern. What else? Superman is now weaker and is held captive by the government. Wonder Woman and the Amazonians are at war with another kingdom called the Atlanteans, who are led by their king, Aquaman, who would still be played by Jason Momoa. Now, unlike in the comics, where Wonder Woman killed Mera because Mera found out about Diana's affair with Aquaman, it's more so because Mera thought the Amazons would be a danger to the Atlanteans and wanted to end a truce, like a peace treaty that Arthur was considering with the Queen of Themyscira. But Mera refused to listen and killed Hippolyta, which led to Wonder Woman killing Mera. And this led to the Atlanteans and the Amazonians for being at war sent for like a year or two at this point. And the Flash would even meet a guy in a cowl, a gray suit and black cape, and red eyes. This would be Batman, the Thomas Wayne version, who I could see possibly being played by Ben Affleck, or maybe Christian Bale, or even Jeffrey Dean Morgan still. I don't know. But unlike in the comic storyline where his wife Martha became the Joker, Bruce became the Joker because Martha was killed, and that left Bruce scarred, seeing how his mother was killed in front of him. And Thomas tried to get a therapist to help with Bruce, like he was trying to get Bruce psychiatric help, but it didn't work. And eventually, Bruce became the Joker. And unlike the Joker, he would shoot. He mainly does this out of trauma for his mother's death. He even took Dick Grayson in as a psychic prank. And of course, in terms of who I could see as this universe's Dick, I'd say maybe Finn Wolfhard. During the mid-battle, when Thomas is facing his son, Thomas is trying to reason with Bruce. And I think Robert Pattinson could have actually still played Bruce Wayne, actually. He still could have. Barry would somehow run to Reverse Flash, and this leads to the climax, where Barry and Eobard Thawne have one final battle, where it's revealed that Eobard Thawne was the one who killed Nora Allen in the first movie, and that apparently he wanted to be a hero like Barry, but he was often mocked and bullied and made fun of for looking up to the Flash. His friends at school looked up to other heroes like Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Aquaman, even other heroes I can name. But they did look up to Wally West as the Flash. They never looked up to Barry Allen. This caused Eobard Thawne to be angry, and so he decided that he would teach his friends a lesson by killing them, even killing his family, who believed he wouldn't be a great hero at all. And of course, this leads to the final battle where, in the end, much like in the Lego Flash movie, underrated film by the way, Eobard Thawne's connection to the Speed Force is severed. And essentially, he is now a powerless man and the timeline is restored. And of course, Eobard Thawne is now in prison. And not everything is normal at the end. Apparently there are some changes. Like, Wally now has a girlfriend who has blonde hair and blue eyes. That's Tahar Markov, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, and Barry and Iris now get married. And after credit scene would set up Bruce Wayne as this universe's Batman. Next movie is Dr. Fate. Apparently, Dr. Fate would take a successor in, like Ken Nelson takes in Khalid Nassour as his eventual successor. Apparently, the villains would be Wotan and Anti-Fate. And they would also, this film would also set up the Order of Chaos. The Order of Fates. And of course, Kala could even learn about the JSA. Speaking of the JSA, next movie is JSA 2. Unlike the first movie where it's set in the past, this would be set in the present day. Apparently the present day team would be Stargirl, her robot companion, Wildcat's successor, the original Wildcat, Hawkman, a new Atom Smasher, a new Cyclone, a new... Also Dr. Midnight and Iron Man would be a part of the team as well. The villain would be... It was tricky, but the villain would be Starro the Conqueror. And apparently it's up to, Stargirl and her friends who would have been the successors to prove that they can live up to the old hero's legacy. The film would also see the debut of the retired Flash, the first Flash, Jay Garrick, played by John Wesley Shipp. The next movie is The Batman. Or Batman the Dark Knight, considering the Spider-Man films in the MCU tend to change the title each film. This would be the first film in the Robert Pattinson Batman films. The film is kind of similar to the Batman, except Penguin would be the main antagonist, with Firefly, played by, I would say, Jason Clarke. Electrocutioner, played by, I don't know, maybe someone like Dominic Purcell as his henchman, even with a sub to Copperhead, which comes way later. Vicky Vale, who I could probably picture Scarlett Johansson playing, maybe, would replace Catwoman as Bruce's love interest, and we'd also see Tommy Elliott in this film, who I don't know who I could picture as Hush, honestly. But the question would appear, And the Daredevil counterpart that would get a Netflix show would be The Question. And of course, maybe Huntress could appear as well, maybe. But they'd be cameos. But The Question would have had a history of the Penguin. The Question show would have featured villains aside from Penguin. They'd be villains like Deadshot, the Court of Owls, and even Talia al Ghul, which implies that the League of Assassins could very well exist in this universe. But an after credits scene would show Clark, Lois, and a kid John watching the news. And when they hear the news about Gotham City, Superman becomes interested in this Batman. Next movie is Wonder Woman God of Olympus, or Wonder Woman God of War. As the title would suggest, Ares would be the main villain. I think David Thwaites could have still played Ares, even though I'm not. I just can't stand with what the DCU did with Ares. They ruined a villain. They really did. Apparently, Ares would invade Themyscira, killing Hippolyta and breaking Circe free. Apparently, Diana tries to stop Ares, but is too late. She is eventually taken to a kingdom ruled by Queen Clea, in which she faces Giganta, as well as Green Lantern. This is where we also would see the debut of Artemis and Donna Troy, who would become Wonder Girl in this film. As for Artemis, I could picture Karen Gillan as Artemis. And during the final battle, chaos would ensue. Queen Clea would be killed by Ares. Ares would also play a redemptive role in the story, and apparently she provides a distraction for Ares to have him and Circe fight, which ends with the two killing each other. And eventually, Diana decides to rebuild Themyscira. But little do they know, even Diana knows, someone is coming. As a ship approaches, and someone is smiling, watching from above. Next movie is Aquaman. Movie is mostly the same, except Elaine Clarke would play Mera instead. Black Manta's fate would be unambiguous, and Ocean Master would die. Aquaman would accidentally kill him, unfortunately. And so Arthur is kind of having to live with the guilt of killing his half-brother. And the after-credits scene would instead feature Darkseid coming to Themyscira. Next movie is Justice League Darkseid War. Yes, Darkseid is here now. The movie begins with Darkseid killing a lot of the Themyscirians, even Aresria in front of Diana, as well as Artemis. And apparently, he takes the mother box that Themyscira had possession of. And it's even revealed that Darkseid had another mother box which he stole from Oa, and killed most of the Green Lanterns. One of the surviving Green Lanterns would be John Stewart, played by Wayne T. Carr, and, of course, Jessica Cruz, played by Naomi Scott, as they would come to Hal for his help. Apparently, Diana is also searching for help from the JSA, reuniting with Courtney Whitmore. Apparently, Batman and Superman would also meet for the first time, and Superman is now out of retirement. And of course, Darkseid is searching for the last mother box, which is in Atlantis. Arthur is trying to get over the death of his half-brother Orm, and even tries to fight Darkseid and his forces, which would be Steppenwolf, Granny Goodness, Zod, and Killerback. However, Darkseid wins in the end, kills Murrah, and essentially he rewrites reality into his own image, killing most of the JSA and Zatanna and Constantine, who would have been her boyfriend. And as well, now has full control. Next movie is Green Arrow and Black Canary. The film would explain where they were during the events of Darkseid War, which would actually be a movie taking place, by the way. The villains would be Sportsmaster, played by Titus Welliver, and Cheshire, played by Karen Fukuhara. And of course, this film would also reveal that Dinah has a long lost sister named Sarah Lance, who was separated from Dinah at birth. And of course, their mother, Laurel Lance, was killed. And soon enough, Sarah becomes the White Canary, and she helps Oliver and Dinah defeat Sportsmaster and Cheshire in the end. Even though Cheshire does turn against Sportsmaster. The after credits scene would then show them seeing the carnage outside. Even with the two hiding. I say two because Dinah is killed. And Oliver's enraged. Next movie is Supergirl. This film would also explain Supergirl's absence, where it's revealed that she was facing Zod again, as well as his minions. And of course, there's the whole Battle World storyline. Yeah, World World. She's trapped on World World by Mongul, who I could picture probably being played by Rory McCann, and Lobo would also appear, and I could picture Keanu Reeves as Lobo. And so it's a fight for Kara. She would then defeat the villains thanks to the help of Hawkman, who is also not on Darkseid War, as he was captured. And then they escape Warworld to help the remaining heroes. Next movie is Justice League Final Crisis. The heroes have formed a resistance, and they're doing their best to fight off Darkseid's forces. They meet Green Arrow, White Canary, Supergirl, and Hawkman. Green Arrow informs the heroes about Dinah's death. And then they would also meet Orion, played by Sam Heughan, and Mr. Miracle, as well as Highfather. Mr. Miracle I could picture being played by Oscar Isaac, and Highfather I could picture being played by Mark Hamill. Essentially, they begin to form a plan on how to defeat Darkseid once and for all by sneaking into his lair to get the mother boxes. By this point, Darkseid has Diana captured and she is tortured. It's been a year since the events of Darkseid War. Apparently, he sees the intruders and orders his forces to kill the intruders. Apparently, Dr. Fate, Jay Garrick, and Barry Allen sacrificed themselves to reverse the timeline to the way it was before Darkseid even won. Which brings back a lot of the dead heroes, including Black Canary and the JSA. Like, all the dead heroes. Except for Dr. Fate, Barry, and Jay. Kent, Barry, and Jay are now dead. And Kara, Oliver, and Sarah can now help the heroes. And then, in the end, Superman would sacrifice himself to stop Darkseid by essentially, when Darkseid gets his hands on the last Mother Box, he tries to use the Mother Boxes to rewrite reality again, but Superman uses what's left of his strength to shoot his lasers. Even Darkseid shoots his Omega beams at Superman. Superman shoots his lasers at the main Mother Box, blowing it up, which catches Darkseid, as well as the destroying Mother Boxes. They kill him, and then Superman is hit through the chest. Superman would say his goodbyes to Kara and the original members of the League as he then dies. Much like Iron Man's death in Avengers Endgame. A funeral is then held for Superman. Bruce decides that he has to be the hero Superman would have wanted. As the question may give out at the end, Hal would retire to be with Carol full time. Oliver and Dinah would get married. Wonder Woman would form New Themyscira somewhere in Gateway City, where she would not only be the queen, but its protector, with the help of Donna and Steve's relative she's in a relationship with now. Wally would become the new Flash. Martian Manhunter leaves. The JSA would then get ready for their next adventure. Aquaman returns to Mura, who is now pregnant with her child. It's more so them getting married, because apparently Mura would be pregnant with her child in Aquaman 2. And now we move on to the epilogue. Batman 2, which would be called the Batman City of Fear. By this point, Supergirl is like the last Kryptonian and would have to, step up to her cousin's legacy. But that would be more of a thing in Supergirl 2. In the Batman 2, Batman would face Scarecrow, who I could picture being played by Adam Driver. Apparently, Batman is trying to become the next hero of the universe. Not like a fourth wall break, but he's trying to be proven himself to be as great of a hero as Superman was. And Scarecrow is testing him through fear talks and illusions of his parents and Superman himself. And of course, in the end, Tommy Elliot gets badly injured and is assumed to have been killed, which causes Bruce to go in a rage and nearly kills Tom Scarecrow, but stops. And at the end, he proved his might. But at the end, Scarecrow would secretly reveal that Bruce Wayne is Batman. So that's why DC stole the rights to their characters. Yeah, this series has come a long way now. Now that it has been officially concluded. I know a lot of you are going to be asking me, what about the Batman 3? Yeah, the Batman 3 would be called the Batman The Man Who Laughs, which would introduce Joker, who I think could have been played by Barry Keoghan. Alfred would die. It'd be more of a grounded story. But Ben Affleck and Christian Bale would appear. Like, I would definitely see Ben Affleck as Thomas Wayne and maybe Christian Bale as a younger Alfred? Or maybe the other way around, I'm not sure. But Alfred would die. Batman in between 2 and 3 would have faced different villains like Mr. Freeze, Man Bat, Killer Croc, Electric Cushioner would return as the film's secondary villain, as well as Clayface. The latter of which I could picture being played by David Harbour. In the end, Bruce and Vicky break up because in this film, Bruce takes Barbara Gordon in as his sidekick, as well as Dick Grayson, who become, Batgirl and Robin, and Vicky's unsupportive of, a sidekick, and so breaks up with Bruce midway through until she too is killed by the Joker after Joker kills Alfred, which nearly causes Batman to kill Joker, but obviously doesn't. And there would be an after credit scene where it shows someone in the hospital watching the news about Batman now having two sidekicks. That, of course, would be Thomas Elliot setting him up as Hush in his revenge, which happens way later. But now the series has ended. This time, for real. Anyways, I'll see you all later. And for the video that will serve as the epilogue of sorts to the series, that will be what if Batman had a movie like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I could try to do a what if Batman's villains had spin-off films here video, the Sonyverse version of Batman, but it's gonna be tricky. I feel like what if Batman had a movie like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse would be a better epilogue to the series, in my opinion, since I can't stand the Sonyverse. Aside from the two Venom films, yeah, it's just horrible. Venom 3 was a letdown. Mediocre finale. Morbius, Craven, and Mad Web, just really bad films. But anyways, I'll see you all. And what if Batman had a movie like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse as the epilogue to the series?